retired Anthony Rucker, our former non-commissioned officer in charge of the team and a very special member of our staff. We also have Cadets Amy Elwell, Cadet Jake Chun, Cadet Teresa Metz, Cadet Jerry Alou. And there it is, 6 good canopies in the sky. Sergeant First Class retired Rucker once again is leading down our stack. Our stack allows the cadets to judge the person in front of them and land safely on the ground. And ladies and gentlemen, now that our flag is out, I would invite you to please stand, remove your caps, and join us in the playing of our national anthem.
You see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in this
Looks on, drops in, and shows you what this super chipmunk can do. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Mark Meredith, and Mark Meredith's Classic Airshow. You saw Mark convert that energy into a vertical maneuver. He let the airspeed bleed off. He got to the top, stood on the left runner, and then now on the down line, he's left aileron rolls all the way down. Smoke on showing you how this amazing super chipmunk can perform. We're going to talk a lot more about his airplane, his restoration, when he flies later today with his full performance. But suffice to say, Mark has restored this airplane from the ground up. This airplane has an amazing history. It's been in the movies. It's flown all over the world. It's served in air forces from a number of countries. Watch here as Mark takes it vertical right here. Watch what Mark does as he converts that airspeed into altitude, pulls up vertical here. He's going to let the throttle just kind of come to idle, stand on the left rudder pedal there. That's what we call a wing over right there. And Mark's going to create that altitude back into energy as he makes his way right back here to show center. Watch what he does right here. As you see the airplane upside down in the middle of that loop, you can see Mark's head sticking up out of the top of the airplane. That's right, there is no canopy. He's got the wind blowing around his ears all the way around. This is truly an open cockpit Super Chipmunk made by the de Havilland Corporation. Mark has done an amazing job restoring it, the beautiful blue and cream paint scheme with the checkerboard on the bottom of the wing. Watch and listen right here. Mark Meredith, a classic Art Deco aircraft. Right here, Mark is out front. The Cyber Beast is taking off. Now the Cyber Beast has had all the software changed. There is no top limit on the speed on this Cyber Beast. Let's see who's going to win. Come on, the louder you yell, the faster they go. Oh man, that was almost too close to call. I'm looking at our wonderful air boss, Mr. Brad Klein, up here on front, behind the stage on the elevated platform with the red shirt. Brad Klein of Klein Aviation does a phenomenal job of keeping our aircraft safe. Wow, Mark is down on the deck. He's trying to get every knot of speed he can out of that airplane. Look at the Cyber Beast, it's going through its normal threshold where it can't go any faster. Oh, look at that. I think Mark got it. Mark's giving a little bit of a wing waggle up there on top.
The C-17 crew is typically made up of a minimum of 2 pilots and a loadmaster. For longer missions, we use up to 26 hours in flight. All right, if everybody wants to give a wave to our friends at the 105th Airlift Wing, they're going to see you. They're looking down, so let's give them a big wave, everybody. These C-17s will fly up to a duty day of 24 to 26 hours. If we do that, we're going to take a augmented crew consisting of 3 pilots and 2 loadmasters. The 105th Airlift Wing and the 137th Airlift Squadron. All right, one more time. They're looking down at us. Can everybody give my friends up there a quick little wave? Give them a little shout out. Look at that! That is one good-looking airplane, folks. The C-17 is the only aircraft in the U.S. heavy aircraft inventory that flies its approaches using thrust to control rate of descent and pitch for airspeed. It has titanium plates located on the underside of each flap to protect it from the 4 massive Pratt & Whitney F-117 engines, producing 40,400 pounds of thrust each.
With his wingtip lights on at the end of the runway, you have that Piper Navajo. We're going to call that the target. And what our South Carolina NORAD fighters have done here is rejoin with that target as fast as they can to start to kick that guy out of our airspace. Now the first thing we're going to do is get their attention. Our fighters are flying alongside them right now and using the internationally recognized symbol for follow me, and that's the wing run. So you see our F-16 is trying to get him to comply. In this case, symbol and has decided to continue towards the airspace center. That's a bad thing because while it may look like that front fighter is out of the way, notice that we've got a second one right behind you. So if you choose to violate that airspace and you ignore the commands of that front fighter, I need you to realize that you have a fully armed fighter jet behind you with his weapons unlocked and queued to your airplane in case you ignore those symbols. Now if this happens, we're going to give you a second chance, right? At this point, NORAD is doing what we call tactical actions, which means our entire chain of command
these are serious things that we put up.
So Astro, while our aircraft, our civilian aircraft, our target circles back around to the nearest strip, which is out here in front of us, what can general aviation pilots do?
That runway. F-16s are going to continue to circle around to make sure that you don't take back off again and try to do something. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your right, the F-16s will be right back, but if you look to your right, you're going to see what happens to you once you land. You can see your police force is now behind the landed aircraft. You're going to be met on the ground by local law enforcement as fast as possible as soon as you land. They are going to chase you down. This is not a good thing for you. At this point, we're going to extract you from the aircraft that violated our airspace, and we're going to talk about suspension, removal of your pilot's license, and even criminal action if you do something really, really serious. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we take these things very seriously for you. We're going to let our F-16s fly for you to have a little bit of fun in a minute. But I'd just like to say, as NORAD's Chief of Operations, stand by one for this airplane. I want to say on behalf of General Gregory Keogh, the commander of NORAD and U.S. Northcom, that we are very proud to have defended your airspace since 1958. We continue to do that mission to this day. We also track Santa Claus, and we're continuing to provide those services for the
providing leading-edge combat capability when called upon to defend the state and the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, from the right, the 169th Fighter Wing. Air Force and in allied nations for many years. Built in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas. Pacific, a plan was devised to launch Army B25 bombers from an aircraft carrier and attack Tokyo and 4 other Japanese industrial centers. Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle was tasked with planning the raid. Without knowing their target or destination, the 17th Bomb Group volunteered for this top-secret mission and began training at Eglin Field in Florida. 16 B-25s, 80 men, and 1 mission, payback for Pearl Harbor. The original plan was to sail within 400 miles of Japan and launch the raid, but the task force was spotted 840 miles out, and the decision was made to launch early, knowing the crews might not have enough fuel after bombing Japan to reach their designated refueling airfield in China. No airplanes or crew were lost as targets in or near Tokyo, Yokohama, Kobe, Nagoya, and Osaka were bombed. One B-25 experiencing excessive fuel consumption turned north after dropping its bombs and landed in Vladivostok, Russia, where the crew, they were then interned. Ladies and gentlemen, they are approaching from your left. One of the B-25s finding a favorable tailwind, and the other 15 B-25s made it to China and now at night in very stormy weather. Unable to find the airfield, in bad weather the crews bail out or ditch their aircraft. From the left, this is Panchito. Once they bailed out and ditched their aircraft, 2 men drowned after ditching. 1 died when his parachute malfunctioned, and 8 were captured. 3 of these were executed by the Japanese firing squad. 1 died from severe malnutrition. 4 came home, victims of torture and solitary confinement for 3.5 years. 56 raiders found themselves behind Japanese lines in occupied China. Friendly Chinese peasant farmers and militia assisted these airmen to evade the rampaging approaching Japanese troops who were infuriated. The Japanese troops massacred an estimated 250,000 Chinese civilians in reprisal for the assistance given to the young American airmen. Suddenly, the headlines across America. Folks, don't forget, if you don't have time to get a ride today, if you're a multi-engine rated pilot and you want to learn to fly this B25, you can stop by and see them at their booth and discuss enrolling in their second in command or pilot in command with a full type rating, flight training in this beautiful B25. Now, as the crew begins to approach and turn around from the right, they will be from the crew earlier when they were up here. Watch this. This is the Osprey. The F22 Osprey is the Marine Corps' medium lift capable tilt rotor short takeoff and landing aircraft. With the speed and range of a turboprop, the maneuverability of a helicopter, and the ability to carry 24 Marine combat troops twice as fast, 5 times farther than previous helicopters, the Osprey greatly enhances the advantages Marines have over their enemies. It's been critical that the United States Marine Corps Air Wing mission of transporting troops, equipment, and supplies from ships and land bases into combat. Quite a difference, isn't it? That's amazing that one single aircraft can do those vastly varied operations, from vertical takeoff and landing like a helicopter, that transition to slower flight, and then now at high speed. You can see why it now has 5 times the range of other operation into nearly vertical and flying just like a helicopter. It's going to demonstrate for you, it's going to get a little noisy, so I'm just going to let you listen, but they're going to demonstrate you some of the hover capability, hover work that they can do. Just imagine this in some austere, contested environment where we have to get our Marine Corps troops into a landing zone under fire that's being contested. But this aircraft has the capability to get us where there's no runways, there's no pavement, there's no ground support. Watch right here. Surface, you can see them continue to demonstrate the maneuverability. This aircraft also has the capability from an altitude like what you see right there. Our special forces and other troops can deploy with fast ropes out the back off of the ramp, slide down to the ground, and here you can see some more maneuverability as they slide to the left and they'll slide back to the right. Some of the phenomenal capabilities in this beautiful MV-22 Osprey built by the Bell Corporation. To his left, you get a great view of the open cockpit with Mark's head sticking out into the airstream as he converts into the vertical maneuver here, lets the airspeed degrade, stands on the left rudder right there, pulls the stick back into his lap, back into that full stall spin right there, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful recovery right in line with the runway. Only Mark Meredith and Super Chippy right here at Airshow, New York. The Mark Meredith's classic Airshow harkens back to the days before carbon fiber airplanes and space-age technology. Airplanes were once shaped by pure imagination, Art Deco styling, and the love of graceful lines. Today, modern computing aids aircraft design Complex wind tunnels can test and prove concepts long before the actual aircraft is even built. And Mark Fleiss's Classic Airshow is a tribute to aviation pioneers who knew how to build great flying and great looking airplanes with just a slide rule, experimentation, hunches, and a ton of tenacity. Watch right here as Mark shows you what that produced. Now, because these early aviators didn't give up, even with countless mistakes, their endless perseverance gave rise to the aviation industry we all benefit from today.
The F22 possesses the ability to point its nose at will, even at extremely low airspeeds and high angles of attack. Watch closely as the aircraft pulls through the vertical and executes a 360-degree aileron turn. At altitude, the jet will flip backwards and level off, execute an immediate 180-degree flat turn, then reverse the turn in the opposite direction. At the top of the loop, you'll see the Raptor rotate around one spot in the sky, utilizing the vector thrust of two powerful F119 engines, which literally flip the aircraft through the